Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Truth About Marketing. I'm super excited to have my guest today, CEO and founder of Napa Technology, Nick Moezidis. Nick, pleasure to have you.
Thank you for having me. Really appreciate being here, Colin.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself, Napa Technology, and how you got to where you are today?
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity. Napa Technology is a company I and a business partner founded in 2005. We are in the beverage dispensing world, but not just pouring drinks in a glass, but we measure it, we pour it, we put the amounts on the bills, and so forth. We're very proud of it. It was an accidental tour down this path. We were actually looking at opening a bunch of wine bars, and we ended up opening a tech company. And now we're in 40 countries, 12,000 customers, and a blur of an 18-year career. So it wasn't something that was really a planned path. I was in Silicon Valley Tech for a long time. I have an engineering degree, and it was just a natural progression to be in technology. But to take that technology and merge it with wine and then subsequently with beer and now with cocktails, it's a fantastic thing. So
That's
I'm
awesome.
very lucky and blessed.
Yeah, I've been in the hospitality industry for quite a while, and I always remember and there's shows like Bar Rescue, right? Big John Taffer and them. They're always talking about over pours and this and that. And then when we started talking and understanding the technology, I'm like, oh, this guy's got to love you guys because
We've been on the show a couple of times.
yeah. Oh, you guys have?
Yeah. We've been on a show a couple of times, and we recently spoke with a couple of their representatives at the National Restaurant Show in Chicago about potentially being on another show. So we're going to reach out to them as soon as things settle here,
Yeah.
and maybe you'll see us again next season.
That's awesome. We actually went on a couple of times with our friends. So like one of our friends was a producer, so we were like on the show, but as like patrons. So
Ah,
it was a pretty fun experience. But
very
anyway,
cool.
so we always start out with a lightning round, right? So I'll ask, 6 or 7 questions. We always obviously tilt everything towards marketing or leadership, right? So I'm just gonna ask you, shoot these to you. Just give me your quick response, maybe a little bit of explanation, but we try to make it quick. So you ready?
All right, let's go.
All right. Favorite marketing technology?
Currently, we use any technology that really generates revenue for us. And right now, LinkedIn marketing is really working for us.
Awesome.
We do a lot of email campaigns through MailChimp and a variety of other mailing campaign websites. But if you get a list of customers that are not vetted or subscribed or double opt in, you can get yourself in trouble with Constant Contact or MailChimp or those guys.
Yep.
So unless we know that these are customers that have really signed up to receive things from us, we go to LinkedIn. So we're about to kick off a senior living campaign, for example, for 55 and over communities. Well, you buy a list that it could have a ton of stuff on it, but with LinkedIn, we know the right people are going to receive this message. We're mostly B2B. So I want to say about 90% of our revenue is B2B.
Okay.
So LinkedIn really works for us.
Got it. Okay. Brand or person with good marketing?
I really like Amazon. I really like Jeff Bezos. I think he started selling us books in the early '90s, and now look where we're at. So that I appreciate what he's done. I also know that it's could be detrimental to some neighborhoods, some small towns, and so forth. But for my perspective, the management style, he has a saying: "Disagree and commit." For example, I love that because I'm not the smartest guy in the room, but
Yep.
sometimes my team comes to me with ideas that I don't know if they'll work or not. But you know what? Disagree, but I'll commit to it. Let's throw some money at it and see if it works.
Yep. Trying things for sure. Absolutely.
Yep.
So that being said, what's your favorite marketing strategy in terms of like email, text, events? Like what's one of your favorites?
So we do a lot of trade shows and we do a lot of email campaigns, right? So we do at least 4 or 5 trade shows a year. We're hoping to do the second annual amusement park trade shows because we now have a beer wall.
Oh, nice.
So imagine going to an amusement park using using our technology to pour yourself a beer. And before you ask, we do age verification because we partnered with Clear. So when you're at the amusement park, you can actually use the same clear software that you just use at the airports to make sure you're 21 years old before the beer is served.
We're gonna get back to that for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so then who's like an influencer that you really appreciate? So not necessarily like a Bezos or that, but like an influencer, someone that's very impactful.
Can we pass on that one and I'll come back to
All
it?
right, and then last one, then like a brand, right? Since obviously you're in the alcohol game, wine, beer, etc. A
Yeah.
brand that you'd like to work with the most.
What I want to work with the most
Yep.
currently would be Budweiser or InBev.
Okay.
Would be the brand that I would like to because we launched our beer product.
Okay.
It's a digital beer tap system. And we know that the beer market is much larger than the wine market.
Yep.
So if I was going to be given a choice, there's two brands in the US I would love to partner with. One is InBev on the beer side and one is Gallo on the wine side.
Okay.
Between the two of them, it would be fantastic for us.
Awesome. Awesome. All right.
So people from InBev, if you're watching,
Thank you.
or from Gallo, give me a call.
Give them a call, right? You heard that here first. Gallo and InBev. Awesome. So, all right, let's get back to that right away. So, you brought it up. Obviously, like we understand. So you're doing, self-serving wine, beer, etc., right? And you got these wine bars. Normally, how does that process look? Normally, someone would go in. I mean, I've been to one. There's a beer one here in Arizona. It's like it's a pizza and beer. But you go up, they have to check your ID, they give you a wristband. Is that the normal process? Like, what was that before?
Okay, so up to about 2 months ago, you just described exactly the process. You walk into a wine bar or a beer bar, you walk up to a waiter, waitress, bartender, proprietor, show them your ID, and they would either give you a bracelet or an RFID card.
Right.
You walk up and you basically push a button and get your glass of wine. We got into this business back in 2005, literally to demystify wine for the masses, because you could now try a 2-ounce pour, a 3-ounce pour, a 5-ounce pour before committing to it. We did a lot of research over the last 10, 14 years. Millennials, 10 to 15 years, millennials are drinking more wine on first and second dates than any other generation before them.
Wow.
When I was growing up, when I went on a date, I'd order a G&T or a vodka tonic or a Tom Collins or something. I never imagined, and my date, honestly, no joke, would order a white Zin, right? Now millennials go out on their dates in their 20s or in their 30s, now in 40s.
Yep.
But now Gen Z even, they order wine on their dates instead of cocktails. So, the self-serve wine bar, and not having to deal with a sommelier or deal with someone that you may be embarrassed or may ruin your date, but you actually walk up, push a button, get a glass of wine, sit back down. You don't like this one, you can sample a different one. Really was the wind in our sail. That's where we really grew and started marketing our products. So that's how it worked.
Yeah, the process was then before, like, you had to go get the ID checked and everything, but now what's being proposed now?
Now we partnered with Clear as of a month and a half, 2 months ago. All of our products have a QR code on them. You take a picture of the QR code, you take a picture of yourself and your driver's license. If you're a Clear member, within 30 seconds. If you're not a Clear member, within 90 seconds, they'll do an age verification, and then it would enable the machine to pour.
Wow.
This is really, really important for our concourses at sports arenas.
Sure.
When you're walking by and you want to grab that beer really quick and get back to your seat, this is really good for airport lounges. So whether it's wine or beer, by the way, we're agnostic. And we pour batch cocktails that are really popular nowadays. So customers who make their own kegged Moscow Mules, kegged margaritas, kegged mojitos, we dispense that. We're now partnering with a merchant processing company in order to add Visa, MasterCard to the machines, Apple Pay to the machines. So it's going to be seamless where it is truly self-service without an attendant there. Now, you're thinking legalities, over drinking, all of that. The machines all have software. We don't serve you more than a couple of drinks per predetermined time by our customers.
Knows who you are. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So if I've already taken your ID and your credit card, if they say no more than 2 drinks for call-in per hour, that ID will not work again for another hour.
Interesting.
If they say for the whole time that the game's going on, is 2 drinks for the whole time. So it's the proprietor that determines how much you drink. Because a lobby bar at a hotel, you may be allowed 4 drinks,
Right.
but at a stadium, you may be only allowed two
Sure.
drinks. We don't. It's all dependent. It's customer
When
configurable.
I kind of just thought through my head of like, well, oh, what if I just take mine up and give somebody else a drink? That's really not a thing either, because at a stadium, I could go up and buy 2 beers and turn around and hand it to, someone that's underage. It's the same thing, right? So like really
We had. I love that you brought that up. We had that conversation with several different alcohol
yeah,
commissions, ABCs throughout the U.S. back in 2007, 8, 9, and my retort to them was always, "Can I get a bottle of wine and take it to my table?"
right,
And what if my cousin's 19? Can I get a pitcher of beer at the pizzeria and go to my softball team where a couple of the players are 19, 20, and the rest of us are over 30?
right.
Well, yeah, you can do that. So why can't I just grab my own glass of beer, go back to my table? If I'm going to be giving it away, if that's mine, then the
It's
onus is
on
on
you.
me.
Yeah, exactly.
Plus, if at a stadium, if I buy 2 beers, right, I'm going to drink both beers.
Right.
I'm not going to hand it off to someone and get in trouble.
Huh.
And if I'm
First
not allowed to buy four
at
beers,
$18 a beer, first of all, but secondly, yeah, like you only have so much time to
no,
drink them, but
we have a customer that's set 1 beer per 7 or 8 minutes. So if I'm going to buy my buddy a beer,
yeah,
right, I got to wait by the machine for 7 minutes till it
right.
unlocks before I could buy my buddy a
Yeah.
beer. That's one customer. No one's going to stick around for 7 minutes to steal a beer for somebody else or to hand off a
Yeah.
beer. So there's many different security features so that minors and over intoxicated people are completely
Yeah.
avoided.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And so then, I mean, obviously, we tilt a lot this towards marketing. So, like, from that perspective, you talked a little bit about like tasting, you talked a little bit about, different venues. Do you try to verticalize when you market, or are you really just taking like your value props that kind of go across the board when you go to market?
Okay. So, perfect question. In the beginning, we had a couple of great marketing people on the team. We had a brilliant VP of marketing, and her and I agreed that we're going to take the peanut butter approach. You want your peanut butter on your bread, edge to edge, covering everything.
Yep.
If we had $100 to spend on marketing, we would make sure that it's covering all of our markets because we were new and we didn't know. Hey, which is it going to be hospitality or hotels? Is it restaurants? Is it retail stores? Is it this? Is it that? And so we basically spread the money across it. But as we grew, larger and larger, and we're able to fund different marketing programs, now we do a lot more vertical stuff. So we also have delivery robots, robots to deliver food to your table, the robots to deliver bottles to your hotel
Okay.
rooms, room service robot. Well, those are really marketed vertically, because I'm not going to market those things to some apartment complex. I'm not going to market those things to some winery, the robots. So we do a lot better job of vertical marketing between hospitality, hotels, winery, wine bars, country clubs, business clubs, apartment complexes, senior living. I could go on and on and on. I have a couple of really wide examples for
Yeah.
you. We're in the Catholic Visitors Center in Washington, D.C. We're
Really?
also at Planned Parenthood. So
Wow.
we have one machine in each. It's not a big
But
thing.
it's
There's like,
there.
we're there.
That's crazy.
Majority of our customers are, the who's who that serve wine. We're on virtually every major U.S. brand cruise ship, or every major U.S. brand hotels. We're industry standard in a lot of them. I don't know if I could name them, but I could tell you that
Sure.
we're in hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hotels in the
Okay.
U.S.
Nice. So that being said, I think that's kind of a good segue into this too, because you talked about being in 40 different countries, right? So like when people grow businesses, I don't want to say that growing a business is never easy, right? From sales, marketing, just legalities and money and all these things. But when you talk about international expansion, that's always such a huge inflection point. So when did you decide to start going into international waters, getting into other countries, and how did that look? What was that process like for you guys? Especially since, I mean, you're not necessarily petting alcohol or anything like that, but your machine is an in between with alcohol and, food and beverage, whatever you want to call it.
So we didn't go international. International came to us. right? So we were sitting there minding our own business, selling equipment. And when I say international, Canada made our company.
Okay.
So when I say international, North America, outside of North America, let's just say, because right from day one we were already in Canada. Our second or third customer was in Canada, and they had 90 stores in the province of Quebec.
Okay.
It was called Society de Alcohol. It's the provincial alcohol stores, and they bought 3 machines for 90 stores. So that was our first foray into outside of the U.S. Then we had some customers in Mexico and Cancun, and then after that, we had international customers start calling us. And so then after, I think the first machine that we sold outside of our own was in Bolivia, in the jungles of Bolivia, to a casino. And slowly, we started building distributors and selling direct, and distributors and selling direct. And now I'm proud to say not only we do that to 40 countries, but we build the product in Las Vegas, Nevada, in Henderson, Nevada, and we ship it to China.
Wow.
So it goes the
Okay,
other
so
way.
you're going that's
So
big time, right? So you're
yeah,
actually
yeah, if you're made in America, going that way.
interesting. So yeah, fully product
Yep.
made in America that's getting exported to China. That's so all right, I need to hear more about that too. So like how did that even come about? Because that obviously couldn't have been easy.
No, it wasn't easy. In 2010, we partnered with a company called California Vintage, or Calvin. They were opening their flagship store in Hong Kong that featured 88 U.S. wineries, and they wanted to put the machines in for people to
Yep.
taste. And that was our first time we were in Asia. We opened an 88 bottle wine bar with California Vintage. Our machines went in, and subsequent to that, we found a couple of partners in mainland. They started bringing the machines in, and life was good. Life was good for a while. As you know, we've had several tumultuous years
Sure.
behind us. We were in business shortly before the global economic crisis of 2008. There was a small downturn in the mid 20 teens, and then we of course had the pandemic. So in that ups and downs, we partnered with a company uh, out of Macau, which is part of China now, an old Portuguese territory that went back to China. We have the world's largest wine bar with 500 bottles on tap. So if you
Wow.
ever want to drink a bottle of wine, you would go to Macau, you walk into this place, you'd buy a card, and you can have your way with 500 bottles of wine from all around the world. There's nothing else like it. And these were shipped right before the pandemic. And our marketing goal, as you talk about, was to partner with our customer and Guinness Book of World Records to have 135 people, because it's the 500 bottles on 135 machines, 135 people simultaneously pushing a button and pouring themselves a glass of wine. And we're just excited to roll that back up now that the pandemic's behind us. Our customers getting rolling again. We will be doing that again.
I mean, I haven't
So
had
Guinness, call us.
I probably haven't had tried 500 wines in my entire life. You have them all in one spot, but so the Guinness Book of World Records is really cool. So they actually were willing to come in and say, okay, and what was the record going to be? It was like most people pouring wine at the same time, most consumed in one place. What was the record going to be?
So it was going to be most people pouring the same wine. So to get into the Guinness Book of World Records, you got to cross a few criterias. They sent us the criterias. We knew we'd pass them all. Like, is this somebody else is going to ever try to beat it? Like, if it's something that nobody else is going to try to beat, then
Right.
they won't consider it, right? So there was a bunch of criterias. We nailed each one of them, and as we're ready to pull the trigger, this pandemic hits, and the rest
Yeah.
is history.
Okay, well, and correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like I saw a video or there was something. You guys actually had, and this is what's super interesting to me because the price points can completely vary. You had a bottle of wine that you could literally try. It was a $5,000 bottle of wine. Tell me more about that. Because if you put a $5,000 bottle of wine in a machine, somebody's gonna raise some hell about that.
So let me start by telling you that's not the most expensive bottle that we've ever had in the
Wow.
machine. All right. But our machines, what they do is they preserve the wine for 60 days, and the wine is served exactly as the winemaker intended. So our customers trust that, and they've tested it, and they've had it. So Jean-Charles Boisset, who owns several wineries in Napa, has decided to put Screaming Eagle into the wine station and serve it at about $900 a glass or $5,000 a bottle to buy it. And he's been doing this for a couple years now. We have customers regularly putting things like Opus Swan and Insignia in there for $100 a glass, $150 a glass. But the most expensive bottle we've ever had in there was the Chateau Petrus in Korea. The bottle itself was worth more than $12,000, and our customer was pouring each glass for $2,500 a glass.
$2,500 a glass
One
out of
glass,
a machine.
5 ounce glasses.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but they know that the product is going to be good for
Sure.
2 months. And honestly, because we let our customers pour by ounces, I don't know how many were poured at 1 ounce for $500, and how many were actually $2,500, right? This goes back to my comment of demystifying wine for the masses. We had our customer at the Staples Center. Now it's called Cryptos.com Center or something like that in LA. They were our customer. They are our customer, and they were pouring Screaming Eagle probably about 10 years ago at $600 a glass. But really on the concourse. So imagine how many people are winning their bets at the Laker game, walking up and going, you know what? I'll pay $130 for a half ounce of Screaming Eagle because they just won their bet. Lakers just did something, and they're never going to buy a $2,000 bottle of wine.
No, yeah.
But
That
you know
makes a
what?
lot of sense, actually. Especially like even I would think about, especially sports books, casinos, whatever. Like, you hit a $5,000 bet. You're like, I'm gonna go have $1,000 pour of whatever. You know what I mean? Like, that's actually a really, really interesting dynamic about that. So I'm sure
Yeah.
whatever sports clubs and arenas are out there probably listening, going, maybe we should make that available.
We sell more high end wines through our machine than you can imagine. And I remember when we first started a company, people were telling me and my business partner Morris, who is going to buy wine out of a
That's the
machine?
first thing I think.
You guys are crazy. Wine out of a machine? Well, we've been here 18 years. And in all those years, we've also generated competitors, not just competitors locally, but competitors internationally. We have a lot of competitors in smaller countries or in any country that have homemade versions of our machines now. We have patents in the U.S.
I was just going to ask.
But we have patents in the U.S. We have patents in China. We have patents in a lot of the European countries through the patent treaties and things like that. But there are also countries that we don't have patents in, and they've rolled their own and they have machines and everything else. It's kind of cute, but
yeah. All right. So as you continue to grow in these other countries, right? I mean, you really have a global presence at this point. You're in 40 different countries. What's kind of your target, or where are you going next or looking to expand?
So we're looking to expand our market to beyond to all 192 countries out there. Let me say that. But we're trying to take a smarter approach to it. We're actually targeting our competitors' distributors worldwide. And by the way, if you guys are watching our competitors' distributors, please give me a call because we're the only company in the world that could give you wine by the bottle dispensing, beer at a keg dispensing, and cocktail machines that actually pour pre-mixed cocktails and cocktails on demand. So there's nobody else that has all three of those pieces. Okay. So when we contact our competitors, distributors, and say, hey guys, you're in this market, you already know your market, you know what you're doing, but sell us, you can make more money and you can grow bigger in your own domestic markets. We're getting a lot of love and a lot of transitions. So for me, it's a lot less spend to flip distributors who are already selling in those markets than it is to go and set up our own distributorships in places. So that's how we're
That's
growing the
interesting too,
international
because
market.
I've done marketing, domestically and internationally. And I mean, outside of like your common English speaking country, like it is difficult because there's a significant investment that goes into those expansions, especially when you're talking like APAC or anything like that. I find that the partnership's super valuable. So you talked about like partnering with distributors and stuff. How important or how much of that it depends on the success, right? Because you're probably leaning a lot on that distributor for marketing and for support, because otherwise you'd have to make a pretty massive investment over there.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, and also knowing the rights
Sure.
and wrongs of the country, knowing the culture, knowing, just making sure that we don't repeat mistakes. Like Chevy had the Chevy Nova, if you remember, or Gerber put a picture of a baby on the bottles and sold it in Africa. And normally in those places, they thought, it's the
Right,
baby
right, right,
inside
right,
the
right, right, right.
bottle. So, so for us, going through distributors that understand the local market, understand the local, I know when I say
Yeah.
local market, I mean their country or their territory, their geography, just uh, how things are. We don't have to get that training in house here. I don't have to have international cultural sensitivity training for my people that are doing business in Eastern Europe versus Western Europe. So the distributors really, really help us hit the ground running and as
Okay.
fast as
That's awesome.
possible.
So that's really important for the marketing and growth and everything. Like, it's just having that support and that, like you said, local knowledge. Um, how about
Mhm.
back domestically now? So you're continuing to kind of expand. Obviously, you're going to continue to market to arenas, venues, and any large. But is there also like a demand for you again going out and marketing to people who want to open up wine bars? I know right here in Scottsdale, there's Wine Girl, there's all these like that are popping up. That's all they do is they're just wine bars, right? So is that kind of a growth plan for you as well? And then also part two of the question is like, do you grow, how are you growing your team, right? So like, is hiring a huge thing right now?
So the first question, the for us, it's very hard to market to people that want to open local wine bars because they're in insurance, they're in they're a GM of a hotel, so we don't know who that person is. But what we're doing now, we sat down and we sharpened our pencils and we decided to figure out all the commonalities of those customers. And, it all led us back to Instagram. It led us back to, hey, for people, because we can't find someone like, let's say you and I decide to go open a wine bar. How would someone find you and I that they don't
Right.
know we're going to go open a wine bar? Like, how did someone to market to us?
I talked to a lot of companies, and everybody's doing things differently. They have their own set of marketing strategies, right? You talked a little bit about like, partnering with distributors, leveraging LinkedIn and reaching out to businesses through that avenue, LinkedIn marketing. But what about things like TikTok, Instagram? Like, how do you leverage those, and are those important in your mix of marketing strategies?
It is now, right? So originally, years ago, we saw Instagram and Facebook as a B2C kind of a thing, right? And we partnered with Samsung through their Decor brand. We sold about 1,000 units a year to homes. So Samsung would buy our product, would relabel it, and sell it to homes under their brand. Uh, Once that relationship was over in 2021, we started looking at, hey, when the pandemic's over, how are we going to go direct? How do we establish our own brand in the marketplace? And the other is we've never had a way to identify people like yourself and I going that want to go open wine bars and change careers, husband and wives that have dry
Right.
cleaners, or people like you and I that want to have our other careers, want to open a wine bar. How do we reach those people because they're not our traditional buy a marketing list and market to them? And it led us back to Instagram. It led us back to Twitter. It led us back to Facebook, where hiring an Instagram influencer, and if you're an Instagram influencer,
I
please take down my number, all right, because we're looking for
think
that.
I know a lot of those, or at least they
And
think they're
marketing,
influencers because they drink a lot of wine.
yeah, in the wine business or in wine tasting formats, and beer, wine and beer. So if you're a sommelier or a Cicero, please, please, please contact me. But it led us back to that, and now as of July 1st, we are revamping our Instagram and social media stuff that we actually turned off back right about September of 2020 when the pandemic had started, and we weren't really selling using those avenues. And now we believe it's our biggest way to reach both our consumers who want to buy luxury goods, because these aren't cheap stuff. These are our home machines are
Right.
$5,000, $6,000, $7,000 for your home. It's like a high-end espresso machine. So for us to have influencers going into wine bars that actually have our product, saying something nice about us and pitching the product, as well as telling the folks that are watching, their followers, these things are
Yep.
available for your home as well. They're not just
Well,
for
and
business
it's
anymore.
interesting. Like, again, I think when you have things like high-end espresso machines, whatever it might be, some people install these nice pizza ovens, and it becomes like a really central focal talking point, right? And then you talked a little bit about, it's not always about the amount that it lets you pour or whatever. Sometimes it's about preserving the wine. It's being able to open a nice bottle of wine and have it preserved. I don't know how many times, and I don't drink really expensive wine, but I don't know how many times like my wife and I just have like one or two glasses, and then we're not going to drink another glass of wine for 2 weeks. And I just feel like it's bad. It's gone bad. You waste wine. So like it could be worth it, especially for people that drink expensive wine. Like I don't see why you couldn't have one in your house.
So let me give you just triggered so many thoughts there. One is for me, and for whenever I've been in a relationship, it's the fourth glass. So I drink two. My girlfriend or my companion or my date would drink one glass, and there's still one glass left at the bottom of that bottle, right? And what do? Most people, most guys I know, would try to force
Right.
themselves to drink it so it doesn't go bad. Even though we don't want it, we don't need it,
Right.
I'm not going to let it go to waste, because we know it's a perishable commodity. When that vintage is gone, when that varietal and that vintage are gone, you cannot buy that varietal or vintage anywhere else, right? So I'm not going to let it go to waste. I'll just drink it. Okay, that's one. Two, majority of our home purchasers, over 60% of our home customers are women, because and they say this over and over and over again. My husband would be pissed if I opened one of his expensive bottles
Yep.
of wine, right? Now, I would say just open
Yeah.
it, right? It's none of his business.
Yeah.
You live
Yep.
together, you're his wife, is common property. Open the bottle of wine. But they care, and so they don't want to open that bottle of wine, so they buy the machines, put it in the machines,
Yeah.
and consume that. For me, I have an 800 bottle wine cellar. I have 4 bottles of ultra premium wine in my wine machine, and I have my regular easy to drink wines. I only go after my wine station wines when I feel like, hey, it's a special occasion. We closed a big deal. Oh, I have my mom and dad coming over, and let's make sure that we're serving the best for the most
Sure.
important person in this world, which is my mom. And
Right.
like without her, I wouldn't be here. So my machine preserves my wines, but those are not my daily drinking wines. Those are, I do have a bottle of, let's say, Camus in there. I have a bottle of Insignia in there. I have a bottle of Chateau Yquem in there. Like, those are the things that are in the wine machine, but I'm going to drink a $25 bottle of Napa Valley Cab
Right.
on most nights, or bottle of
Yep.
Barolo
No, that
on
makes a
most
lot of sense.
nights.
So I think there's definitely a market for that. Like depending what the use case is, I just still think that there's absolutely a home market for it. So, hit me up if you need to start marketing for consumer purchasing. But awesome. Well, I think we have a lot of good things going on here. I think one that listeners or whatever would want to know is like, what's one thing that you've learned over your career? Because also you've transitioned, right? You were in technology, now you're doing something that you're obviously more passionate about. What's one big thing that you've learned in your career getting to where you are today?
Failure is a good teaching point. you know Not everything, not all of us can be Elon Musk and turn everything into gold, right? So I've had I've had ventures that have gone nowhere. I've had ventures that have gone halfway, and then this one we've been at for about 18 years, and we're very happy with. Uh, in the beginning, when we started Napa Technology, I was told, oh, if this was something that people wanted, someone else would have done it. And I always tell people, hey, headphones were around, MP3 players were around, and digital music was around. It wasn't until Steve Jobs put it all together, created the App Store, where Apple's, market share took off. By no means am I saying I'm Steve Jobs, so whoever's going to, cancel me because I'm
I
not
could see the
claiming I'm Steve
headline.
Jobs. All
I
right,
think he's
that's not what
Steve
I
Jobs.
said. I'm, yeah, not at all. What I'm saying is, you know what? Just because if someone else was going to do it and they haven't done it doesn't mean that you can't do it. IBM wasn't the first one with the home computer or with the computer. There were others
Yep.
before. They just became the best one at it. So go do it, try, and there's many, many, many ways to get to market. Building your channel is a lot more
Yep.
important than building the product, in my mind, because many people build products and they end up in their garages as science experiments. And if you cannot take a product from your laboratory, your garage, your design to market, then it's not,
And we say that all
you
the
just have a
time.
science experiment.
Yeah, we say it all.
You have a garage trophy. Yeah, you have a garage trophy. Look what I
Yep.
made. It's sitting on the shelf in my garage. You need to market it. You need to market it. You need to market it. Build a channel. Figure out what your channel is, whether you're going direct or through distributors, and try to avoid channel
Okay.
conflict. It's a disaster. Okay. It ruins your pricing strategy. It ruins
Yeah.
your go to
No, that's
market
fantastic
strategy.
advice. I mean, I think everybody's run into that who has started a business before. I mean, even just from where you're distributing, right? I know some people have this like big, massive like desire to go to Amazon or to Costco but then all of a sudden you kind of outbid yourself. You have the lowest margins possible and nobody's ever going to buy direct from you. So now you've just killed your business, right? Like, exactly.
Race to the
So
bottom.
super interesting. Really appreciate it. I guess, like I always do, I ask you questions for 30, 40 minutes. Is there anything that you want to ask me?
How did you get into
That's a
this
good question.
business?
It's a good question. I literally didn't know what I wanted to do out of college. I worked in athletics, did a lot of different kind of hospitality industry, and I ultimately ended up working for a PR agency, and that's where I cut my teeth. Right, I was doing storytelling, doing interviews, things like that, and I was just really drawn to it. I loved having conversations, creating story narratives, and really help building go-to-market strategy. And so, over the years, I've kind of grown up, taken leadership roles, and now eventually there was just enough demand and enough people that were like, "Hey, Colin, we'd love you to help us." That got my own company now, and I've got this video series. It's been awesome, and that's how we ended up here.
Fantastic. And before the end of the year, I may reach
And
out
I
to
would love it. I
you.
would love it.
Help me
Well,
out with
again,
that.
thank you so much. And I got to give a quick shout out. Go High Level. It's the marketing software that I use to build my company, and also kind of supports this interview series that we do. So big shout out to them. They're fantastic. If you want to hear more information, there's a link in my bio and link in this video. So really appreciate them. GoHighLevel.com. Again, Nick, thank you so much. Really look forward to speaking to you again soon. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you.